Ordinary level reflection is more easily stimulated by problems and mistakes, your own and other people's. We showed that with that lesson. We had masses to say about it. Reflecting on good teaching is much more difficult. Okay, coming back to Sean's ideas, we know that we reflect in the action and we reflect on the action. But if we're honest, most very good teachers only reflect in the action. Right? So when they come out of that lesson, they've forgotten. They have nothing to say to someone about what happened in that lesson. And they don't reflect on the action much because mostly they're helping other people. They're not sitting down and really focusing. There's your time. When there is a problem, they do. They use both these things. They use rational thinking. They think, right, I've got to plan that better. And they put their whole mind to it. And a very good teacher reflecting like that is very powerful. But more of it's going to be intuitional. Like, that doesn't work very well. Let's try this. And nothing gets written down, nothing gets explained, but the next lesson is a better one. Just reminding you of another thing. Can a novice, beginner, however, help you reflect? You good teachers. Actually they can, because what Sean talks about is this. We all think we've got ways of doing things, and they're quite successful. That's what you call your espoused theory. Okay? All my jokes in the classroom are very funny, and all the children laugh. That's what I think. But my theory in action is that they don't, actually. Okay? Or I think I treat all children the same, or I make sure every child answers a question. What a novice can do is come into the classroom and say, that's funny. Remember you said that you always do this? Well, you don't. Because they can't see much, but they can see things you told them to look at. That can be quite interesting. In other words, again, I'm not saying that only good teachers can help teachers reflect. Novices, because they see limited things, ask difficult questions. So actually, a good teacher can learn from a novice if they're open to it. If they don't say, what do you know about that? You know? If they say, ask me some difficult questions, or just ask me what you noticed, and they'll ask quite simple things. They might be quite crude, but they might be a challenge to reflect. So, Sean says it's a dialogue with the situation. But what is a situation? Most of the time it's you and a class. But the situation is you and your colleagues. The situation is you and the whole school. The situation is you and your colleagues in Beaconhouse schools nearby. And one of the things that systems are not good at is giving teachers chances to get out of their own classroom and into other people's classrooms for reflection, not judgment, not performance management, not to give you a B or an A, but just to be there to learn from another teacher. Second thing is, we've done it today. What identifies and distinguishes experts, whether they're chess players or surgeons or teachers, is what I call a repertoire of cases. That's to say, many situations, repeated many times, which you understand. So boys behave a bit like this. You said year 8 quite like drama. You know, those sorts of knowledges are from experience, but the ones that stand out are the ones that are a little bit different to that. So from your repertoire of cases, there are a few that are a bit different, that challenge the repertoire, that challenge the stereotype, if you like. Those are aids to reflection. But they're not aids to reflection for anybody else, unless you can talk about examples in a way that makes them meaningful to other teachers. So, bottom line. Reflection is a practiced activity, not simply a routine or an innate one. And not only is recording reflection important, it is revisiting it, as I've just gone to say. I think the trouble with Sean's model, however good it is its overemphasis on the individual. It lacks what we are today, a collaboration. This is a collaboration of teachers who want to learn about reflection. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, how beautiful you are, whatever you are, you need a mentor, you need a coach, you need somebody else to go to. And most schools are recognising, certainly in England, that very good teachers can have a mentor for whatever reason. Why have a mentor? It's an entitlement. Someone to go to and say, I know I've been teaching 20 years, but you know what? I still have trouble with this, or actually I'd like advice about that. So this idea that you're immune, you become so good or so practiced or so high status that you no longer need advice. No, we all should have access to advice, not necessarily judgment. Different things. So going to the principal is not the same as going to your coach. Of course, colleagues can do a lot for each other, we know that. There are the obvious resources, training, books, materials, they are ways for reflection. If we need more time. Okay, let's see what we've got in the room. So, how many people have got at least one example of themselves on video teaching? Put your hand up if you've got an example of yourself. Where you have got an example of having been filmed in a lesson. Before? Let's just talk about that for a minute. So let's ask you at the back first of all. So you've got what, one lesson, many lessons of you being teaching, of you teaching?
Yeah.
Several?
Yeah, several.
And what are they for? For you?
Like I use video to teach my students.
You're teaching.
I have done.
You have? Did you say?
Yeah, there's only once I had this experience while I was teaching a course, a workshop I was taking.
Yes.
So I've been videoed for that, so that the other people can see me, while teaching.
Have you watched it?
Terrible thing to watch.
Okay, this is very important. This is not learning to drive. You're back to learning to drive. Why was it terrible?
Because then you can see that what blunders you are doing actually.
And you learn from them?
Yeah. Because otherwise, if you are just sitting back and reflecting on your teaching, you cannot see the little things which you are doing and which you cannot actually noticing yourself.
Perfect. Thank you. Learning to drive again. We're back to being a novice. Wow, that's me.
That's me.
Oh, look at my nose. No, seriously, it is very challenging. That's good. Now we have a new, really powerful way to reflect. And needn't all be, oh my goodness, it's like learning to drive. It's bad to begin with, and then you become confident. All right. So I want to say that as we move into genuinely an opportunity to use new technologies to capture good teaching and all teaching, we'll have to go through a phase of learning to drive, which is getting used to it. There are three factors which matter. You have to get used to it. That takes a bit of doing. The students have to get used to it. Now, you might find this a very odd idea, but I think it's an interesting idea. Some schools in England now have a special teaching and learning room. And any teacher can book that room. And they go in there with their class and teach them the class. Okay? And there is actually a hidden camera. Now the students know there's a camera, by the way. It's not that we're lying to the students. It's just you can't see it. So you don't notice it.
There's a pair of cameras on.
It's just up, behind something you can't see it.
Even the teacher is not aware of where the camera.
No, the teacher chooses to go there. Right? It's a choice. It's not imposed by anyone.
No, but does the teacher know where the camera is located, or
No.
she is also unaware?
Once she looks at a video, she would know.
So what it means is you stop being self-conscious when you're teaching.
Yeah.
Because if you're teaching in a room like that, and there's a camera at the back following you around, and there's someone with a microphone dropping down in front of you, it's a little bit off-putting. So we know technology is not a simple solution. So that might be a way of saying, well, look, let's get rid of the self-consciousness of it. The third thing is really important, I think, really important. At the end of that teaching episode, who owns the tape? Well, you do. Right? Otherwise, no one in the school has the right to look at it unless you choose to. So in those schools, the teacher takes the tape away, has a look at it. Yes, is embarrassed about how they look, whatever, but gets used to it. Okay, and then, and this is the key thing for us, they are encouraged, not required, encouraged to think, right, I've learnt some things from looking at myself, but actually, I think this particular episode, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, I could talk about with my colleagues. Alright? I'll tell you something which is quite interesting. I've watched quite a lot of videos of whole lessons. They're very dull. Do you know what? Because the kids are busy learning. There isn't that much teaching. The teacher teaches for an hour, but they're only teaching for 15 minutes in front of the children. The rest of the time, they're out, sitting with the children, talking to them. So they're doing lots and lots and lots of work and lots of teaching, but not like this standing at the front. Okay? So it isn't all about that. So what the teacher does is say, okay, I'll show you the beginning of the lesson when I was talking to the whole class, 5 minutes. And then I want you to watch this bit when I was sitting with a small group, and some things were going on. And what you can say to the other teachers is, well, you see me sitting with this group? What do you think I was doing? Because I know what I was doing. What do you think I was doing? The teacher, okay, well, we can't hear what you're saying, so they watch the language, the body language of the children, they watch the interaction, and they say, well, I think you're introducing this, or you're helping them with that. And suddenly you've got a really powerful aid to reflection for the other teachers. I thought about bringing some examples, but I decided technology was too much of a risk, so I didn't bring it. But I can send you the odd example if you want. What am I getting at? What you've got is expert performance captured. You can look at it, and you can look at it more than once. Just like the masterclass in music. You can watch it several times to see the skill. And you've got the teacher who is there talking about it. And the final dimension, this is really fascinating. I don't know if you found this when you watched yourself, is you realise how much more you were doing than you thought you were doing. In other words, what's called stimulated recall. The problem with becoming a highly competent teacher is most things that happen you don't remember. Okay? You forget how busy you are in the classroom, how many things you say, because you're moving on to the next lesson. Stimulated recall means you slow time down. You slow it down so you can see exactly how you spoke and exactly what you did with each child, the phrases you used, and you can actually get back to the reflection in action. The reason that's so important is that's when reflection happens most of the time. Because we're agreeing there's never enough time.
Did your video work?
Sorry?
Did your video work?
Well, this is working. This is all. This is working. This is what we need. We're fine.